Wait, so you're telling me they buffed Iaido Slash? There's no way. Yo, what is going on, my fellow weebs? Chrono here, and welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to make a quick follow-up video. I say quick, it's probably not going to be as quick as I want it to be, but we're just going to talk about some of the changes that happened with the most recent balance patch CN got, and kind of a reshifting of our thought process when it comes to Iaido Slash. If you haven't seen the original video that I made going over the Iaido Slash spec, talking about all the different talents, all that stuff, kind of explaining how it plays, go check out that video. It's going to have more specific details. I go over every single talent, talk about how important they are, so on and so forth. So if you're looking for something a bit more in depth, that's what that video is for. This one's just going to go over the reshifting of stuff. We're going to do a little bit of a recap, like very, very light, but we're usually mostly going to gloss over a large amount of things. So like I said, if you want a more detailed explanation, that's going to be the video you want to check out first. So for anyone who doesn't get over to that video and just wants a very, very brief overview, just a quick overview of what we are, we're playing Iaido slash Stormblade. Our primary stats we're going for, agility as our main stat, crit mastery being our secondary stats. We have a lot of things that happen when a specific abilities crit, and then mastery just makes it, I don't think it's translated yet. Yeah, okay. So what this is basically saying is for every point of mastery we have, our thunder sigils deal an increase plus 2.5% damage per usage. Essentially, we have a bunch of skills that whenever we use a skill, it uses thunder sigils. Those thunder sigils increase damage, increase our lightning damage, and then this increases that amount of increase that happens per thunder sigil. So mastery is actually pretty useful for us. The rest of the stats aren't useless. Things like haste do make us attack faster, which is nice. It increases our attack and cast speed, which we do enjoy. Well, I say cast speed, but it's attack speed that actually matters. Cast is for, casters. Luck is actually pretty cool. Luck just is a chance to hit again. It's more in depth than that, but that's the easiest way to put it. And since we do take a specific talent, we get a lot less luck, but it is still something, right? And versatility does still affect damage, damage dealt. I mean, it also affects like healing and shielding, which we really don't care about, but it's still technically an offensive stat, but you're not really chasing after it. If you happen to get it, it's not the end of the world, sort of situation. As far as skills that we're going for on Stormblade, top row, we can't really choose. It's Judgment Cut, Iaido Slash, and Oblivion combo. All these are going to be useful anyway, so you can't really choose. You're going to have these no matter what. Overdrive, Flash Strike, Volt Surge, and True Sight are the 4 skills that we're going to use. You can make an argument for Raijin Dash. There are certain circumstances where Raijin Dash is useful, but I find this to be far and few between. I find a lot more use specifically in True Sight than I do in Raijin Dash. Raijin Dash is like if I get super, super, super unlucky during some of my burst, I'll be able to press a button, but at the end of the day, you're not looking to get super unlucky. And with the changes that we're going to be getting, post the changes that they got over in CN on the 28th, then this becomes more or less a moot point. I've seen people talk about why not taking Storm Flash. Ultimately, all Storm Flash does is it gives us an extra like lightning hit that does a bit of damage every time we use an expertise skill, which is these skills down here. Every time we use an expertise skill that uses Blade Intent as well as uses I think sigils as well. I think it might just be Blade Intent specifically. I don't know. When I looked at this, it's just not worth taking, honestly. Like, yes, it's going to be a little bit extra more damage, but I, again, find more use cases out of True Sight. Being able to keep up time, you get full thunder sigils when you use it. It's just overall a better skill to have, both offensively and defensively, in my opinion. You can make an argument for whichever one you want to go for, but the 3 you're going to absolutely take are going to be Overdrive, Flash Strike, and Volt Surge. That 4th one, it's up to you, but I would highly recommend going True Sight. And now we have to talk about the changes, because to understand the talent conversation, we need to talk about the overall changes of our class. So if we take a look at the changes, so this is a lot of words. A lot of stuff doesn't really need to be read. A lot of these things aren't really going to apply to what's going on here. In case you're curious, again, I went over this in a previous video. You're more than welcome to check that out. But a lot of stuff really isn't going to apply. The 2 major things for like Iaido Slash's like buffs are going to be Thunder Seal Recall. Adjusted consuming a Thunder Seal now has a chance to refund 1 Thunder Seal, and each additional Thunder Seal consumed increases the chance by 9%. So essentially, casting things that use Thunder Seals give you a chance to refund Thunder Seals, which is really, really nice. And then you also have Dual Awareness. Dual Awareness also, well, this went to 9%. It did this before, it just went from 8% to 9%, by the way. I say it like it's so obvious, but there are people that might not even be looking at the screen or just listening in the background. So basically, what happened is this buffed the previous amount. This used to be 8% chance. Now it's a 9% chance, which per Thunder Seal is an increase of 1%. So it's actually pretty nice. Moving on, we have the talent Dual Awareness. Dual Awareness is reworked. So during Infinite Thunder Power, which is Volt Surge, this is a translation thing. The chance of Thundersteel recall triggering is doubled. However, during Infinite Thunder Power, the damage bonus from each Thundersteel consumed is reduced from 25% to 12.5%. And then they adjusted the recommended skill post for the build. So yeah, basically what this means is that the chance for Thundersteel recall to recall a Thundersteel for us, naming kind of works, is going to be doubled. It just means it's half of the actual damage it normally would deal. So it makes the Thundersteel recall situation more consistent for us in our burst, which is actually going to play a part in how we're going to build moving forward. And in case you're curious, as far as like the build philosophy when it comes to Iaido Slash, we're looking to do two major things really. Build Thunderseals and then consume them very quickly, and do that over and over and over and over again. That's what our skills are built into. Essentially what we're going to be doing if we ever start a fight is we pop our Volt Surge, or I'm sorry, we pop both of our Battle Imagines, any that give us any buffs. We pop our Volt Surge. If we don't already have full Thunder Sigils, we pop a single Overdrive. Because Volt Surge gives us maxed out Thunder Sigils whenever we get a Thunder Sigil, we'll be maxed out. We press Iaido Slash, and then we press Flash Strike. And if we get lucky, Flash Strike is going to refund a Thunder Sigil because of recall, and another skill we're going to talk about in a moment. Which means we're going to get max Thunder Sigils because of Volt Surge, and we can Iaido again. If we're unfortunately unlucky, then we have to press an Overdrive, then we can Iaido, and hopefully Iaido's crit gives us our max, I can't think, Blade Intent, I couldn't think of the word. Iaido's crit gives us our max Blade Intent. There's also 70% chance to reset Flash Strike because of the Thunder Sigils that we have, and a skill we're going to take. We'll talk about that in a moment. So we have a chance not only to have full Blade Intent from the crit, but also Flash Strike. And if Iaido crits, we have full Blade Intent, so we're gonna have Flash Strike. And then Flash Strike uses Blade Intent as well. It'll, immediately go all the way across and give us, I say across, like across the target. It depends on what you're fighting. But immediately, you dash forward, do a bunch of damage, and then you have a chance, of course, of refunding your Thunder Sigil. So in theory, if things go the way you want it to go, under a Volt Surge, you're going to Iaido into Flash, into Iaido, into Flash, into Iaido, into Flash, and maybe occasionally you have to press Overdrive into Iaido, into Flash, or maybe occasionally you press Overdrive into Iaido, you don't get a Flash, you maybe have to press Overdrive again or normal attack to kind of fill in the gap, and the Iaido again, so on and so forth. But that's kind of what you're looking for. Because of the changes we received, or CN is receiving, or is received on the 28th, the chances of you pressing Iaido into Flash over and over again dramatically increase. You have a very, 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 very high chance to the point where, like, now looking at CN players burst and their openers, they're consistently Iaido into Flash Strike. As long as they're statted pretty decently, they're not stopping this combination over and over and over again. Maybe on very, 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 very rare occasions, they have to press an Overdrive because something just doesn't work out for them. It's just almost, it's to the point where it's basically guaranteed, even on a single target. And you're doing this back to back to back. And why this is important and why this is really powerful is because of some talents we're going to talk about here in just a moment. So let's pop over to talents. For anyone who hasn't watched the previous video, the talent tree is like, well, what do I you take everything here. If you want a priority, grab AI Thunder Dance, go all the way down the right tree, grab these two skills, come down the left side, grab this skill here, and the rest is just kind of up to you. Grab what you can at certain points as you're leveling and so on and so forth. But ultimately, you're going to grab everything. So now, further down, this is where things start to get a little bit more complicated. You can't take everything. Flash Frenzy Blade is the talent that lets us get a chance to clear the cooldown on our Flash Strike. This is great, but not as important until you get down to like way down here, honestly. Until you get Dual Blade Intent, which makes it so your Flash Strikes can consume your Blade Intent to make them super fast. It's not really all that useful. It's not terrible, don't get me wrong. And I mean, even with just Flash Sharp Strike, giving you the ability to reset and get back a Thunder Sigil, as well as, I believe, where is it? A Thunder Sigil Rewind, which is recall, but differently because of translation. Once you get these two talents, like, it then can technically be useful to pressure Flash Strike. But to be honest, like, even just with this talent here and then pushing it down here immediately, that's when you start to make, Flash Frenzy Blade actually useful and pressing Flash Strike actually pretty solid. But outside of that, I mean, the talents you're gonna be picking up, you can kind of go over them slightly here really quick, but Thunder Curse, useful. It's gonna give you more damage when you Iai Slash. Iai Slashing every 5 seconds at least is gonna be helpful to keep the armor down, that way you're dealing as much damage as possible, but RNG is a pain in the ass, so it's not always gonna work out that way. One thing to mention is Wind Assault. Wind Assault 1 and Wind Assault 2 actually two different things here. I'm not sure if this is like a typo or if this is like a bug or whatever it is. I haven't personally tested it. Maybe this is like this on CN and that was the intention, but on the early access server, Wind Assault 1 and Wind Assault 2 did the same thing, which made sense. They had the same name. Wind Assault 2 is like way worse than Wind Assault 1 in my opinion. Yes, it means that you do more damage to targets. I'm sorry, it means that you slow targets and then you instantly knock out, you know, common targets that are below 15% HP, which can be really, really useful, especially on something like Stygian, I think, Stygian Tower. I almost said something that chat usually says, but I usually say on the Ironclad Tower, basically on the tower, or the vault, excuse me, not the tower, but the vault going through it could be very useful if it's working there. I never even pay attention to it, to be perfectly honest. Everything's stacked up so tight and I'm paying attention to like the elite mob that I really didn't pay attention to if this is actually working on them. It is common monsters below 15% HP, so I imagine it would work. But honestly, I prefer Wind Assault 1. Increases the critical rate by 12%, which I feel like is just nice. I mean, it reduces the amount of luck that you gain, but you really care about your crit paying Iaido slash. So either way, going further down, where things are changing up a little bit is, first off, our version of dual awareness is balls. It just means you do more damage to a target above 50% or above 80% HP. So this is being reworked. That's the talent we talked about earlier, which is really, really nice. But yeah, once this gets reworked, everything else is going to kind of fall into place. Where a reshifting of my thought process has changed is actually I'm picking up Infinite Thunder. So Infinite Thunder basically makes it so we get our Volt Surge back way faster. So every 5 sigils we use, we get some cooldown knocked off of our Volt Surge. And as you know, while we're in Volt Surge, we're generating and spending sigils insanely fast, whether it's a Eye Slash, whether it's our dashes, whether it's generating from overdrive, whatever it happens to be, we're going through this very, very quickly. What ends up happening once I've taken this talent is we actually fall into a situation where we get our Volt Surges back so often, the awkward timing of our ult coming up at a weird time in between our Volt Surges doesn't really happen as much anymore. And because of that, we actually start taking things like End of Annihilation. Now, granted, I think you take this primarily just because like you don't really have another valuable point later on in the tree. I took this a little bit early because I was at 1 point left and there was nothing else really valuable I wanted to grab in the tree. I could grab Dual Awareness, but as you can see, Dual Awareness is kind of ass. So I grabbed this a little early, and what I found in most situations is because of the amount you push your Volt Surge down and its cooldown, you're getting a Volt Surge right before your Oblivion combo comes up. And what this does specifically is it kind of just calculates the amount of sigils you use. And if you used at least 10 sigils in the last 10 seconds, you're going to do maximum damage for that final hit, which is like a plus 1000% damage. It's pretty gnarly. But essentially what ends up happening is you run into the situation without this where your Oblivion combo just kind of come up in a weird spot. Maybe it's in between, maybe, you know, it's right before or so, whatever it happens to be. But with Infinite Thunder, Volt Surge gets pushed down to the point where like every time I'm like finishing up a Volt Surge, I'm usually looking to see if I have an ultimate or an Oblivion combo ready, because usually it kind of falls into that line where it doesn't, you know, it's not really a problem. But granted, that's with uptime. There's always a situation where, you know, you lose some uptime, so things don't really work out the way you want it to, but it is really, really nice. And even over on CN, man, watching some of the burst rotations that they're doing, essentially they're going from Volt Surging into an Oblivion combo in the opener. And then as the Oblivion combo is finishing and they're spending the sigil from the Oblivion combo, Volt Surge comes back up again almost. In some cases, just straight up comes back up if they're like super, super lucky with the Thunder sigils that they actually generate and use. So it's kind of crazy for our burst rotations. And since Volt Surge also just straight up starts its cooldown as soon as you press it, it makes it so like even now I'm knocking off 15 to almost 20 seconds of Volt Surge in some situations. And I'm getting Volt Surges back in almost half the time that they're supposed to be up. Like they're up for 12 seconds to begin with, right? So I have Volt Surge up for 12 seconds. With a 30-second cooldown, I mean the downtime is about a little over 30 seconds, right? But if I'm knocking off almost 20 seconds from that, it's kind of wild how quickly you're getting Volt Surges, and you can just jump into your burst over and over and over again. And this is before we even get the changes. When we get the changes, it's going to be even gnarlier. So it's just what I wanted to talk about and show off really quick, and I can show you guys like 2 things really fast. This is extra stuff at the end. So if that's all you wanted was the information as to what's changing and what you're doing, that's pretty much it. I want to show you guys something else really quick here. So this is just going to be like a little quick burst rotation, kind of get an idea of how things work out. Pop my buffs, make sure I have max stacks, and as you can see, if I get lucky, I can just Eye Slash into dash. Now, right now it's not happening too often. Oh, didn't get lucky at all there. Oh, got lucky there, so that's kind of nice. Lucky there, nice. and I'm out of my burst, so I can press my ults and back into it again. Now, what I wanted to actually show you, and also you can see it's got like a 15-second cooldown or an 18-second cooldown by the time it was done. Now, that's really cool for single target. What I wanted to show you guys was the multi-target scenario situation. So because of this setup, something that the game does whenever it's calculating damage is it calculates damage on each target that you're fighting. Meaning that a lot of our abilities that require us to crit, things like for Zen Moment, that gives us our 100 Blade intent whenever we crit. If we're in an AoE situation, the chances of that happening increase with every single target we have. It's exponentially. It's kind of crazy. So I'm just going to press Iaido slash without anything extra, and let's see if anything crits. As you can see, a lot of it crit. Most targets crit. I could sit here and press Iaido slash over and over again, and there's a good chance that because everything is being hit at once, I'm going to almost every time get at least a crit somewhere in here. Some things aren't going to crit. Most things are, right? Iaido slash has a pretty high chance of critting. It has increased crit chance, so it's pretty nice. And I have pretty solid crit rate on my gear, but with the more targets I have, the more chances I have for crits, which means situations like Flash Strike, where Flash Strike, you know, if it deals critical damage, it has a chance to refund a sigil for us. It's going to be even better in AoE situations, right? So if I were to do the same burst in an AoE, as you can see, I'm almost always going to get that refund because it's going to work on every single target I hit. Meaning there's almost no chance of me not having max sigils. And as you can see, my burst is expired. However, I'm still getting a bunch of sigils back. And what you'll find is in huge packs, you may just be Iaido slashing into dashing. You may not need to do anything but that over and over again, because realistically speaking, you're going to have sigils. And if you have like 5 or 6 sigils at a time, man, you just spend them. It may not be perfect every time. Sometimes you might be down to 3, sometimes you might get 4 or whatever, but you're gonna have so many of them. And because you're generating so many sigils, we got our buff up again already. And it just keeps going over and over again. And it's honestly makes you feel kind of busted in AoE as the Iaido slash Stormblade. And that's just because of how the game calculates its damage. Since it counts each target individually, the more targets we have, the more chances we have for something to proc, meaning the more we can go back in and do more and more of this. I mean, granted, you're seeing I'm only getting like 1 sigil, but when it does proc, that's like 5 or 6. And I mean, the average pack of enemies is usually anywhere between 3 to 4. And if you know you're in a dungeon, people are pulling together multiple packs, you're dealing with like maybe 10 enemies at one time, you're gonna absolutely decimate them. All I'm gonna say is be careful, because when you're flash striking that often, you can knock enemies in the air. And if they're up against a wall, well, you might knock them up the wall. Unfortunately, it's a little bit bugged and it tends to cause some problems. So just keep that in mind. But that's about it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to toss in the comments below. Let me know if there's anything that I missed, anything you're doing that's different, that's actually working really well for you, and I'd love to read about it in the comments. Like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe when you keep up with more. As always, thank you to the channel members. You guys are fantastic, and I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, my friends. Peace out.